It's been another day of airstrikes here, threats and renewed escalation. Israel targeted the South Pars gas field in the southern Bushehr province. It is shared by Iran and Qatar. It is a significant escalation. Israel also claimed to have killed another of Iran's leaders, Intelligence Minister Ismail Khatib, who was targeted overnight in Tehran. Elsewhere, along the Straits of Hormuz, the US says it used deep penetrator bombs to hit Iranian missile sites. In Lebanon, heavy Israeli bombardment flattened buildings in Beirut, while in the south, the IDF ordered those living south of the Zahrani River to move north, including the entire city of Tyre. The IDF said it would also target crossings along the Litani River. Iran continues to fire towards Israel. A suburb of Tel Aviv overnight was hit during a barrage of missiles which included cluster munitions. Blasts and drone interceptions have also been reported in the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, as well as Bahrain. Well, here's how day 19 of this war unfolded. Grainy videos, but a clear escalation. What you're looking at is the largest natural gas field in the world, the backbone of Iran's energy system, going up in flames. The latest conflagration in a region already consumed by fire. Israel's attack on South Pars, apparently made with US blessing, is the first time Iran's energy production facilities have been hit in this war. Iran shares this gas field with Qatar. The destruction instantaneous, the consequences massive. Qatar's response, helpless outrage. Iran's threats against energy facilities across the region, and in the last hour, this attack on Saudi Arabia to prove the point.
As a direct result of this action, the fuel, energy and gas infrastructure of the source of the aggression will be set ablaze and turned to ashes at the first opportunity.
Their backs firmly to the wall, the Islamic Republic is burying its leaders at a relentless pace. Today it was Ali Larijani, the all-powerful security chief, killed yesterday by Israel, along with Gholam Reza Soleimani, head of the regime's street-level paramilitaries, the Basij. The intelligence minister was also killed overnight. The morning is a message that the Islamic Republic retains a hard core of support. Even for some of its many, many opponents, though, Israel and America's war is a terrifying lurch into the unknown.
Regarding Larijani's death, some people think he could have probably at some point played a role in ending the war. People don't want this war to continue for a long time, especially given the collateral civilian damages and already dire economic situation.
This war is becoming a catalogue of grim firsts. Here's another. Iranian cluster bombs raining down on Tel Aviv. These bomblets get released even when the missile carrying them is intercepted. In this case, the residential neighborhood of Ramat Gan, Eshel Street, corner of Haroe, 3rd floor. The apartment of Yaron and Ilana Moshe, both in their 70s. It seems that they were too old to make it into the shelter, and that was their death sentence. Are you getting more vulnerable now, do you think?
We've seen a decrease in the Iranian regime's fire, but we've seen an increase in their attempts to target civilians. We've seen an increase in their willingness to use weapons that are a war crime to be used against civilians.
Israel prides itself on defiant normality. Manicures in the mayhem, a trim at the barber's, a breakfast at the neighborhood caf, and a broad consensus that this war against Iran is necessary. Did you have to fight this war?
Yeah, this is a necessary war. We have to end it with all the terror and the fighting from Iran.
I born in kibbutz Neve Tam. In '56, I was in the shelter.
And now you're still in the shelter? You're still in the shelter?
Yeah, 70 years, the second, all the time, war.
Few people think that this will be the last one, and few dare to think what would happen to Israel without the support of its American protector. Presidents can change, but geography is here to stay.
Well, as you can imagine, this strike on the gas field in Iran is having a huge effect on the global energy markets. For more on this, our economics editor, Helia Ebrahimi, is with me now. Helia, how has all this played out in the markets today?
Well, Kathy, as Matt was just saying, Pars is the biggest gas field in the world, and after the attack, the price of oil immediately shot up 5%, touching almost $110 a barrel. The price of European gas also immediately was impacted. You can see shooting up, that sharp tick up, 6%. But it's not just oil and gas. This feeds into fertilizer, petrochemicals, foodstuffs, inflation. And I've picked out just one example, corn prices, because corn needs nitrogen, which needs gas. And you can see after the attack, it just shoots up. Now, there are farmers out in Iowa and all over the American heartland right now, Kathy, choosing whether to plant corn, which needs gas, or soybeans, which doesn't. And that matters because if they plant less corn, that is going to constrict supply, which is going to push up inflation later in the year.
Just today. So why is this gas field so important?
Listen, I don't think you can underestimate how politically and financially important it is. It's set in the middle of the Persian Gulf, owned half by Iran and Qatar. It's estimated that there's 1,800 trillion cubic feet of gas there. That is more than any other gas field in the world combined. The south field, which was attacked today, is owned by Iran. Most of that is used domestically in homes, in heating, in industrial activity. The North Field, owned by Qatar, is basically exported in LNG to Asia, to Europe, but also to the UK, Kathy. But remember, that is offline now.
Mm-hmm. And we've had the Federal Reserve decision on tax today, haven't we?
Yeah, really critical decision. Last time they met, oil was at $60 a barrel, and now it's almost at $110 a barrel. But they were fairly dovish today. You know, even though they held interest rates and raised inflation expectations slightly, it was the best that Donald Trump could have hoped for. You know, in a world where diesel in the US is about $5 a barrel, which touches a real political nerve in the US.
Helia, thanks very much for joining us. Let's go now to Matt.
Thanks, Kathy. Well, now in the US, the Director of National Intelligence has been testifying before the Senate about the intelligence that prompted the war on Iran. Tulsi Gabbard has said that while the Iranian government has been weakened, Iran and its proxies are still a threat to the US and its allies in the Middle East. Let's go over now to Washington and our US editor, Anushka Astana. Anushka.
So yesterday we had a senior resignation, Trump's counter-terrorism chief, going and saying that there was no imminent threat from Iran. Now, that has turned attention from him, Joe Kent, to his boss, Tulsi Gabbard, who is the Director of National Intelligence. She's an interesting character, a former Democrat who switched to support Trump in part because she didn't believe in forever wars. She actually put on social media in 2019 that she didn't want Trump to go into a stupid and costly war in Iran. She called on people to join her in sending a message to the White House. The US must not go to war with Iran. So what is she thinking now? I sat in that hearing earlier, Matt, and I tried to tell, but she was being very careful with her language and her face was studiously neutral. I wished I could read her mind because it felt as if she was holding back. At one point, she said that she wouldn't answer whether or not the White House had asked for intelligence related to the Strait of Hormuz. And then there was another bit that was in a written thing she had submitted in which she said that last year strikes had obliterated Iran's nuclear capability and that they hadn't enriched uranium since then. She didn't actually say that out loud in her opening statement, but she was pressed on it later on. She did say it, and then she said it's up to the president to decide what is an imminent threat. Listen to what followed that.
Was it the intelligence community's assessment that nevertheless, despite this obliteration, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
It is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat.
Okay.
That is up to the president
here's the problem.
Based on a volume
no,
of information
it is precisely
that he receives.
It is precisely your responsibility.
So in truth, we don't know what Tulsi Gabbard is really thinking about this. And Matt, of course, I did try, as she came out of there, I tried to ask her again. Just have a quick look at asking her that question. Director, will you say that you support this Iran war? Do you support it? Could you say that? Now, look, she may just not have wanted to answer questions, but I thought it was interesting. This is a major moment for the US, and the Director of National Intelligence wasn't giving anything away.
Anushka, thanks very much indeed. Well, in the last few minutes, there have been reports of explosions at Qatar's Ras Laffan gas field. Joining me now from the Qatari capital, Doha, is Dr. Tanya Thafer, the Executive Director of the Gulf International Forum. Thank you so much for coming on the program. I mean, how existential is this attack on the gas field for your country, for Qatar?
I'm actually just here in Qatar, but I would like to say that this is an important escalation for Qatar. Ras Laffan is extremely important. It's where it processes mostly all of Qatar's gas, and it was just hit by a missile within the last few minutes. You know, for Qatar, this is a very serious economic hazard. And, you know, the fact that Israel struck South Pars field that's shared with Qatar put Qatar at risk. And that's why you saw a statement right away from Majid al-Ansari, the spokesperson for the ministry, raising that concern exactly. And, you know, Iran has mentioned that it is going for an eye for eye strategy. And unfortunately, the other eye is the Gulf states. And therefore, whatever happens in Iran, unfortunately, is reflected in the Gulf. Let's mention, though, that Iran has attacked or attempted to attack various energy facilities throughout the Gulf. So this is not its first attempt, but this is one of the successful ones.
Okay. I mean, the Israelis started this latest round today with the attacks on the South Pars gas field, but they did so with the permission of America. I mean, America is supposed to be your, you know, Qatar's best friend. The Qataris have promised Donald Trump a shiny jumbo jet or big plane when he retires. How angry are the Qataris with the Americans now?
I think that's a difficult question. And it's surprising, actually, that the U.S. greenlighted this, because it is against U.S. interests with the price of gases hiked in the U.S. But in terms of the Qatari stance, I think they've been very clear that they are going to continue to be focused on maintaining their core relations with the United States. You have to understand, Matt, that also the Gulf states' security is dependent on the U.S.'s military defense systems, which have allowed more than, let's say, a 95% interception rate in the case of Qatar. And so therefore, although the U.S. could be part of the problem, the U.S. is a huge part of the solution.
And are you looking at a future that is just going to be one of chaos with an unstable or perhaps even more vicious Iran breathing down your neck?
Well, that is a problem for the Gulf states. As I've said on different shows, that the war front is at the Gulf. Even so, the more that they diminish Iranian missile capacity, especially long-range missile capacity, the more so the Gulf states are going to be the main target. Let's be clear that on most days, UAE has been targeted more than Israel. So I would like that to sink in for everyone. So this is a very problematic war for the Gulf state. And when you have an injured, angry, wounded Iran across the Gulf states, it's not good news, especially if it has the capacity to attack them.
Indeed. Dr. Tanya Thafer, thank you very much indeed for joining us there from Doha.